can barely contain myself right now. If you go to drudgereport.com, you can read a detailed report that Paul Joseph Watson put out this morning. It's posted right up in the right-hand breaking news corner of drudgereport.com from Infowars.com. Pollster, Americans are pre-revolutionary. Just 17% believe U.S. government has consent of the governed. Well, they know that you're awake. That's why they just transferred the power to the Super Congress, the Austerity Congress. 12 members with Obama with a veto, a 13-member council. And they've got Pat Cadell, pollster at Rasmussen, other major polls. I don't just believe one poll. We've got a whole index of polls showing the same numbers or worse. Some are as low as 9% approval rating. The results of this survey indicate that Americans are now pre-revolutionary. That's a quote. Says pollster Pat Cadell, who described the outcome of the poll as unprecedented. This conclusion follows Cadell's observation last November that a sea of anger is churning amongst Americans who want to take their country back, and that the nation stood on the brink of pre-revolutionary movement. Now, here's the deal. We've got to get the left and the right and libertarians and everybody to go, wait a minute. It's not about Obama the puppet as much as it's fun to hate him. It's not about the puppet George W. Bush as much fun as it is to hate him. It looks like a demon, acts like a demon. You got to get past these people to the big mega banks and the derivatives that they got us and Europe to sign on to that we don't owe. Now, look, our $14.5 trillion deficit, easy to deal with. They're trying to tell us it's about pension funds and Social Security. We're a rich country. We're fiscally solvent. And the Svengali trick here is for the bankers to get us to sign on to 1.5 quadrillion, 600 trillion, the Washington Post says is the U.S. share, get us to sign on to this and then make us think it's all about the $14.5 trillion that we actually have spent. It's a joke. The zombie banks are the problem, and they're going to hold us all hostage. Now, joining us for the next 20 minutes or so is Nomi Prins, journalist, best-selling author. She's got a new book coming out in October, and we'll have her on. Before becoming a journalist, and Nomi couldn't watch what she was seeing anymore, so she left. She worked on Wall Street as a managing director at Goldman Sachs and running the international analytics group at Bear Stearns in London. She was analyzing the big spectrum. And so she was piloting a Star Destroyer for these people. And she joins us now, Nomi Prins, not Naomi, Nomi, N-O-M-I, Prins.com, links up on Infowars.com. And I want to get her view on the Super Congress, on the hypocritical rating agency. She's got an article out under that title. I want to get her view on where we're going, because from my research, this is a planned implosion, but it's a black hole so giant they've created that it may suck them in with it, like Bank of America plunging in the stock right now. This could be the beginning of a major rout. Could this be bigger than 2008? Nomi, what say you?
We've talked about this, and I continue to say we have never, since 2008, been in any kind of a recovery. This has all been going on and down behind the scenes and also right out in public view. We don't have a handle on all of the assets, all the toxicity, all of the debt, everything that was created by the banking system in the run-up to 2008's official crisis, and since then that is still globally dispersed and declining and degrading the global economy as we speak. So there's a couple things going on here, and it's the rating agency coming in and downgrading is one aspect of many things going on. But the bottom line here is that banks created a mess. Banks profited from the mess. And yes, some might go down and some might have their stocks go down, but they made a whole lot of money on the run-up. They can position themselves to short or to not value the securities that are still on their books because the Financial Accounting Standards Board says they don't have to, and all sorts of other tricks. Meanwhile, they are floated by the government, by the Federal Reserve, by a whole lot of subsidies that we have no control over, we don't vote for, and that is how they continue to thrive and do what they're doing with no repercussions. We feel the repercussions, and today's mess in the Dow is just one aspect of so many repercussions that we've been feeling and will continue to feel.
Well, very well said, Nomi. So where are we going from here now? From your expert position of research and knowledge, Where are we right now?
I think right now we're in the middle of a massive global downfall, and that's because, for one thing, if you don't fix problems, they don't go away. The only group of people who think they might go away if they're not focused on fixing them are the people in Washington. And as you rightly say, it doesn't matter what party they're from. It doesn't matter who selected which Treasury Secretary. It doesn't matter who's even running the Fed. It's a concerted denial of today's problems, definitely, and problems that were emerging. And today's problems and today's debt, for example, the $4 trillion of extra debt that have been created in just the last 2.5 years, as you rightly said, have not been created because we had to save Social Security or because, we're giving too much away to workers and we're helping the labor economy and we're creating jobs. That's obviously clearly not what has been going on with the debt that's been created. And it's interesting. Someone actually, I think one of your listeners sent this to me. I'm not sure. There's a U.S. national debt infographic at the White House's website. Links on my site. I'll send it to you. But they have $3.6 trillion worth of debt created in the last few years that they label economic and technical changes. They don't say, no, I know, it's laughable. And by the way, that doesn't include, we do know that there was a stimulus package. That was an $800 billion package. That's not in that $3.6 trillion, right? The $3.6 trillion is just this laughable, general, unaccountable behind it type of moniker for basically saying we gave a lot of stuff to the banks. We printed a lot of money to really flow what was going on. As we talked about on your show last time, the banks, for example, hold $1.6 trillion of Treasury bonds that they basically got from the Treasury, gave to the Fed, received interest from the Fed, doing absolutely nothing of any kind of productivity for the U.S. economy or any individual in the United States or globally. That's just one number of that $3.6 trillion. That's just $1.6 trillion of it, and it goes on.
Well, look at the big six mega banks. Record bonuses, record profits. But at the end of the day, how are they going to operate when their parasite economy has destroyed what's left of the real economy? And I guess they say it's better to reign in hell than serve in heaven, because most of the experts we talk to, Nomi, they say that we've really been in a depressionary spiral for 3 years, and that this is going to deliver us on the course we're on into a real depression, and that they've set up this super Congress to be able to do whatever they want during a crisis. What do you think about the term Depression A and B super Congress?
Well, the term depression is definitely viable. I've used it as well, and you know how back in the early part of last century, before World War I, they called the First World War the Great War, right? And then we have the Great Depression, and then by the time we got to World War II, the Great War became World War I, and we had World War II, and in that respect, we are in Great Depression too, because we have no way out of where we're at. The fact is the hole is so deep. And it's unfortunate, it's sad, and there could have been things to have been done along the way to have mitigated the problem that were just simply ignored by Washington, by global leaders, by global central banks, because they weren't actually either recognizing or, in fact, they were sustaining the banking system, the private banking system that was really funneling debt into the economy, toxic debt, high-rated debt that allowed it to be dispersed. So the rating agencies, going back to what's just happened today, were definitely a part of this puzzle. So they didn't rate certain bad debt, certain bad assets, AAA. They wouldn't have been dispersed and sold throughout the global economy, bringing whole cities and municipalities and pension funds down with them. They were labeled wrong. And there's been no accountability for that. And it's the same lack of accountability that's created this downward spiral, because if what is sustaining municipalities, if what's sustaining local towns, if what's sustaining local pension funds, if what's sustaining local workers isn't real, then as much as anyone can work, as much as anyone can attempt to find jobs to...
That's right. We've invested our whole economy in a planned Ponzi scheme fraud, and now the Ponzi scheme operators are saying, go down with us, let us rule you, or you won't even get 10% of what you invested, and we've got to just decide to cut bait. I want to talk about how we go after these people with you, Nomi Prins, former managing director at Goldman Sachs, here in just a moment. But first, I wanted to play this clip of Geithner over the weekend saying, hey, the clip was re-aired over the weekend saying 2 months ago, we're not going to lose our AAA rating. Here it is.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thanks for joining Fox Business.
Good to see you, Peter.
Is there a risk that the United States could lose its AAA credit rating, yes or no?
No risk of that.
No risk.
No risk. Again, if you listen carefully now, you see the leadership of the United States of America, the president.
All right, that's enough. Now, this is the same guy who said there was no danger of even a recession when we've been in a depression, and he's now running around saying that this is the, quote, greatest recession, Nomi.
Yeah, I mean, that comment, I think the rest of that clip says he goes from no chance to absolutely. I think the term was also thrown in there at the end of that clip. I was watching it on television. I think that's the same guy, and that's. And you know, it's not even just Tim Geithner. It's what Tim Geithner represents. He just happens to be in a very powerful position to really hurt us. He's the same guy who labeled the $3.6 trillion of extra debt that's been created under the last few years economic and technical changes. It's that same denial, that same, no, we don't have a problem. Yeah, this debt is just created because we're in a rough spot. You know, we're in a recession. You know, people aren't making as much money. No, it's not the money that's coming in to the Treasury Department. And yes, there can be tax changes. People can, at the top, pay their fair share. Corporations can stop.
No, but the problem is we've been tied into a fake black hole.
Exactly. That's the point. And the way that they've been attempting, they've been actually trying to fix this black hole is to make it blacker and deeper. And that doesn't, that can't end. They're not looking at the problem properly.
All right, well, let's look at it properly, Nomi. Sorry to interrupt. Let's look at it properly on the other side. Stay with us. We'll be right back.